Hey guys, hey everyone. If you're not familiar with the way I work, I like to start early because so I have time to make some adjustments. I can make sure that meantime, let's check here. There was some problem. Yeah, I seem to working. I have to make some adjustments. I start early because I like to check, make sure that the sound is arriving properly. I think always you have the chat, so you can let me know if you're facing problem. So I like so if you want to follow my work, I I I like you to let know that I always like to start at the right time, like at the time that we schedule is generally the time that I like to start. So first of all, I'm very happy that I'm starting this series of live. There will be a series of live focused on artificial intelligence. So the idea is quite simple. The idea is that you can talk about artificial intelligence watching movies. I guess everyone loves movies. I mean, everyone likes to watch movies and so on. I like I have chosen the topic artificial intelligence because that's a topic that I work a lot, it's a topic that I follow a lot. I have been working with artificial intelligence since my bachelor, maybe about more than 10 years. I even start a PhD, a math of science, but my PhD in my math of science aftermath was related to artificial intelligence. So that's a topic I like a lot. Right now I'm just recording a course, which will be in Portuguese, about artificial intelligence for in layman terms. I mean, artificial intelligence for people that are not expert in computer programming. And also those live, there are chapters of a book, of an ebook that I'm writing about the artificial intelligence as I mean, all the lives will be a chapter of ebook. So your collaboration, your comments, you can interact now, you can interact later, because the live will be available, which means that you can make your comments. Of course, I could just record, I could just post, but I already have record course. When you record the course, for sure, it's much easier because when you record the course, you can edit, you can remove the part, you can make all this kind of addition that make it cool. But I think that the opportunity that you can talk, that can interact, I think that's a very nice opportunity. So I think that's all. I think that's why I think live is a very nice opportunity. So I'd like to start with Robocop. I mean, yeah, I think it's a very nice move. Like, of course, it has kind of Hollywood magic. But recently, I watched Robocop 2014, which is I think the latest the latest edition, the latest, the last version. I don't know why they stopped Robocop 3. Some people say that it was a disaster. I don't know why. I think it was nice. But you never understand why some movies just stop. Like Back to the Future. They never did the new version. In the case of Robocop, they start to restart, the reboot. They call it reboot. So they start the story again. They recreate the context. They kept more or less the same idea. And of course, I think they did that because Robocop is a kind of technological move. It's a move that it comes from technology. It comes from cutting edge time. I do not know precisely when Robocop was launched, but I think it was 1987, 1985, I don't know, more or less like that. But when Robocop was released, artificial intelligence was maybe one of, I'd not say the best, because the best time of artificial intelligence was when it was created. When artificial intelligence was created about the 1950, 90, more or less, like I do not remember precise the date, they have a big hope for artificial intelligence. They have the idea that artificial intelligence could replicate the brain. They were surprised that very simple algorithm could learn. At the time they have what's called perceptron. Perceptron is just a threshold. It's a kind of a system that is changed according to the signal. So it's a summation. Mathematically speaking, it's a summation. It has some kind of input. Then it just make an output. Just make a kind of output as a response. It's more or less how the brain works. The brain works more or less the same principle, the same style. How the brain. So the brain essentially is a set of what we call it, have neurons. Those neurons, they have a kind of can call it terminations. Those terminations, they release chemicals which make the neuron to fire. This fire process is a kind of threshold. So they try to replicate. So the neurons connect to each other. Each neuron is always with their small. They have a very small, can call branch. That is small ramification. They connect to each other. So how the neuron connect to each other? It's called the artificial. It's called the neural network. So they can be very huge, as Professor Casabov brought to attention one of my live in the other my channel. It can be very deep. So we have about, I think, 10, 11 to 10 neurons, but have 10, 11 to 14 connections, which means it's a combinatorial problem. It means that not all neurons is going to connect to each other. In general, the neuron connect to the neuron is closed. So memory, all this kind of stuff that you have, learning, it's all about neuron. They connect to each other. I'm right now reading the book of Marvin Misk, and it's called Emotional Machine. So essentially, Misk is proposing how you can create more intelligent machines. It has to do with the life of today. So Marvin likes to say that we have in our brain like systems. The systems has to do with some kind of fear, fall in love, reason, and the system, they talk to each other. Sometimes they may suppress, sometimes they may activate the other part of the brain. So this talking process is what makes the artificial, more or less, even though Marvin Misk does not say that, I believe those may be a neural network. So essentially how the brain works, it's like kind of neurons, which is the atom of the brain. That is the smallest part of the brain. They are just cells, like any cell. They connect to each other to create all the complexity of the brain. So all the neural networks, all the thinking, all of them, they are just neural networks. They are connections. So the same neuron can disconnect. They call it reinforcement. They can, for example, when you like habit, the best way for you to get a habit, bad or good, you should repeat. So the more you do something, the more you get good at that. Most likely, it's like the neuron is like make the connection stronger and stronger. So when you smell something, you may like have an image in your brain. So those image has to do with some kind of specific part of your brain that they have a specific function. So let me talk to you about Robocop. I mean, what changed in Robocop? I mean, essentially, you have two things that changed for the Robocop old one, the last release, and the new one, which is 2014. The biggest change that happened, it has to do with technology. The first Robocop was the Japanese. They had the highest technology, so you could see that the Robocop from the United States was a kind of cyborg. On the other hand, the Robocop from Japan was really a very like a machine that could move like human, which even today is impossible. We don't have that yet because we have a kind of paradox that machine cannot do. They are very good at doing a kind of mathematical. If you ask a machine to do mathematical tricks, like mathematics, chess, and so on, they're pretty good. Including because the machine now they can beat the best chess player, even Go player. So deep learning was the example how it can be very strong. On the other hand, it's like it's very difficult to make the machine to move. Like when you have movements that she should move like human, it's called the motor learning, like the muscles and so on. That is kind of the limit of machine. So this difficulty that machine has is called, I think it's, I always forget the name. It's called Paradoxo. There's the Robocop, there's a very nice scene. One of the Robocop, I think the Robocop #1, you have like Robocop, then you have a very have the newest robot, which was a very bad robot because they could fire meant stronger. But the Robocop is able to go down the stair. The machine tried to find he tried to move to find the stair, then he falls down. The Robocop got a little surprised. Why this robot cannot go into the stair? Because that's a kind of motor ability that unfortunately machine has difficulty to do. So nowadays the best way for you to see what is artificial intelligence, they are the robot on Twitter, Facebook, moderation. They are very good at doing this kind of calculation, kind of rational stuff, but they are very bad at doing moral, like we do, like soccer player. For example, in the future, they say that some profession is going to be replaced. But if you see the kind of profession going to be replaced, they are more or less like repetitive, like thinking, such as people that attend online. Like nowadays, it's very common to have WhatsApp doing that. On the other hand, the doctors, they have a very low chance of being replaced. But I have this opinion that if you see the profession of medical doctor, the one that is related to diagnosis, they have a higher chance of being replaced because they are already being replaced by image segmentation, computer vision. On the other hand, I think the surgery, since they have this moral path, they need to move like a carpenter, they have a lower chance of being replaced because this is the way machine learning, the limit of machine learning. By the way, I have a book called Computational Think, in which I try to make a thought about the limits of machine and the limits of machine learning. So essentially, the first thing that changed Robocop was the fact that now China is the place of high technology. So as you can see in the movie, Robocop was built in China. So like Japan lost the place of high technology, and China became the place of high technology. So that was a very nice change. That was a very nice because now you have this change. We no longer have Japan as the point of high technology. Now we have China. China essentially took the place of of a reference as technology. And it's true. If you see, there's a document called The Age of AI. China is leading the way alongside the United States. So China is investing heavily in artificial intelligence. They like deep learning. They took the fight nationally. They took the fight like as I started Go. They were beaten in a very national game called Go. So they thought, wow, I have been beaten in my own game. In the case of Brazil, it would be very difficult because how can I beat Brazil in soccer? Maybe artificial intelligence will take centuries to do that because that will need what a soccer player can do. Unfortunately, machine cannot get even closer because this is the limit of machine. The limit of machine is moral. There are some limits. One of them is moral movement, like moral intelligence, like muscle. But it's not true that all the kind of thinking pattern machine was able to master. For example, when you have a kind of understanding of the situation, such as if I break a leg, and if I do not go to the cinema, suppose that I break a leg, then I go to the hospital. Then because of that, I did not go to the cinema tonight. So a human is able to say that every time someone breaks a leg, they do not want to go to the cinema. But that's a process that human can understand, but machine can predict, but they cannot understand. That's called the causation, the cause, the reason, the knowledge behind this process. The machine is unable to understand. So that's the big. So the second big change in Robocop was the fact that the emotion was no longer important. If you take the 3 moves of Robocop, most of the time he was able to show his superiority, that he was superior because he was able to feel emotion. So all the time the human emotion was differential. But on the Robocop 2014, the emotion start to be a problem because there is a very nice scene in which they try to compare the Robocop with a machine, like a pure machine. And the Robocop was slower in the process. He was slower. He was slower because he was like he was feeling emotions. He was feeling like empathy, most likely. Then they decide to remove the emotion of the brain, which is kind of strange. I don't know if you can do that today. Even today, you can do a release specifically. Maybe psychopath. They say that they have no emotion, but so I don't know how will be the consequence because there are several discussions. What's the place of emotion on decision? Some people say that's important. Some people say it's not important. We don't know precisely what's emotion. Some people say that the emotion is a very primitive brain, so it was like evolved. So when you feel an emotion, it's not just random; it's a calculation that your body needs. So that's true. You cannot put that in a machine because there are centuries of evolution in which we could learn how the world works. So emotion could be seen as a random, like a bug in the human brain, or emotion could be seen as a learning process. Like when I fear something, I know that I should be careful. But you know that sometimes the emotion can trick us, such as when you are afraid of your boss because your boss say he's gonna fire you or he's gonna make you a threat. That's just a threat. That's not necessarily real. Even if he fire you, you still can find another job. But sometimes you can be so afraid of that, you can make suicide, can commit suicide, can kill somebody else, can attack physically your boss. Maybe when somebody is like a soccer player, we are watching your team playing. Sometimes people can attack each other. Think like my team just lost. So how real is that? I mean, if you take that to a kind of real situation, when your team lose, that's not that big a deal. But the people still make that kind of big a deal. That may be your emotion playing trick on us, trick on you. There is a very nice scene from a series on Netflix. Netflix. in which they try to ask people to shoot someone. It's called 100 Human. So you have to shoot someone pretty fast. Like you see someone going out of the corner, and then you shoot that person. They found that people tend to shoot black people. Like so, I may say, my film never gonna do that. That's not true. If you go to Google Image and you try to say in Portuguese, in the English I wasn't able to find the proper word, but in Portuguese it will say bad hair. Bad hair is going to be associated with black people, which is make no sense. I mean, makes sense from society point of view. In Brazil, we have this kind of prejudice in which black hair is associated with black. So most likely, the machine learning of Google Image was able to internalize the kind of prejudice. So if this prejudice goes to a machine, like a Robocop, like a machine, a robot, most likely they're going to shoot most likely black people than white people. It already happened. You already know in the United States all this movement like Black Lives Matters. So it's real. So in this specific case, you should be careful, because when you do artificial intelligence and you decide to put that on a robot, that could make care all the prejudice that you have. For example, some research they showed that when you ask a kind of artificial intelligence to be the judge, to make the judgment, they found that in some situations they could send to jail black judges, what showed that they have a kind of prejudice. So there are several discussions, because we don't have data that is representative enough you don't have data that's representative enough for the women, black people. Most of the data that you have, they are for white male. So if you place that in a kind of artificial intelligence, we already have this kind of discussion. So there is a book called The Weapon of Mass Destruction of Catherine O'Neill, in which she explaining how artificial intelligence can be biased and how that can be dangerous. So if you think that a machine is going to work using a kind of artificial brain, you have to remember that the artificial brain should be trained. Somehow, today we have deep learning. Deep learning have transfer learning. Transfer learning is essentially when you transfer the learning for another machine, like another robot, another bot, we like to call bot. Bot, when you go to Twitter, it's kind of bot. There's a bot everywhere. When you go to Facebook, in which they make the moderation of your content, I had myself bad experience in which they say that my content was fake. I make a quotation from Albert Einstein. They blocked my quote, say that Einstein never said that. I think that I thought to myself, what's the problem? Even Einstein say that was the damage of his cite Einstein poorly. If I make a wrong citation to Albert Einstein, what's the damage on that? I mean, there is a scene in Robocop in which the robot is able to shoot someone because the person dropped the gun, but he didn't see the person dropping the gun. So he still asked the person to drop the gun, and he shoot the person with a heavy gun, the person goes around like he. I know that's Hollywood, so they make a kind of exaggeration. They make exaggeration, but imagine if a robot make a mistake, but they already make mistake, because when you make, for example, a mistake on a plane, when you decide that you should see this kind of ad, when you decide that this is a fake news, this is a kind of no one should see. I had to myself when I was trying to make a Google ad. I had a Google ad. I have a video of mine that was blocked because I just mentioned the video COVID. I just said COVID. Then they just blocked my move. They just blocked my. It was a lesson I was teaching. It was a kind of course. I was giving a course about mathematical biology. then I mentioned that there is a huge amount of models applied to COVID dynamic, which is true. But somehow the artificial intelligence from Google somehow said that my video was talking about COVID, but what I just mentioned, right? I just mentioned the name, just to contextualize. By the way, it's called today you have the concept, they say that the artificial intelligence for Google is shallow. There's an art called the shallowness of Google Translator. So the shallowness of Google Translator has to do with the fact that a machine cannot understand in the level that human understand. So Robocop, when he decided to remove the emotion, so again, in the first move of Robocop, emotion was very important. So in the first 3 moves of Robocop, they placed emotion as very important. So emotion was a way of Robocop being different, being superior. But in the new version of Robocop, in 2014, emotion was no longer a kind of something to be important. So what changed? What happened? Between Robocop, old Robocop and the new Robocop. Changed a lot. Artificial intelligence changed so fast that nowadays emotion is no longer considered. We are not sure. If emotion is important or not. But at that time, it was kind of sure that emotion was a differential for Robocop. But now it's no longer. If you take the new move of Robocop, they decide to remove the emotion because the emotion was a kind of setback. The emotion for Robocop, the empathy that he felt about the person that was in front of him, made him think, made him slow. So now it comes another discussion because when they try to explain in Robocop why Robocop was fast, they just try to explain a kind of philosophical way. They said like this: Robocop is fast because Robocop is not thinking. He thinks that he's thinking, but who's thinking is the machine. So essentially, what he was trying to say that Robocop was not thinking at all. He was just replicating what a simulated brain, but based on artificial intelligence, was doing. So imagine like this: it's a kind of free will discussion. There is a philosophical discussion. We humans are free because most of the things that you do are habit. So we think that we are free, but that's not 100% true. So this freedom that Robocop kind of lost, one day I tried to explain why Robocop is being so fast. So the person explained that he was just a simulated brain. The brain was, he was responding, he was doing what the machine was asking to do. So if he was doing that, he was not free at all. He was just a kind of human inside the machine, doing what the machine asked him to do. So that's a big difference. So big difference that in the past, in the old version of Robocop, the emotion was seen as important. The new version of Robocop, emotion was no longer important. But even though the movie maybe simplified the discussion, saying that it's simply not important, so I'm going to remove the emotion of Robocop. Robocop is going to be faster as a robot, as a machine. But that's what you should be asking. When you talk about the future, you should be asking yourself, what is going to be important for us? What makes us different from a machine? If you want to have a job in the future, which kind of job is machine cannot take? This is called the jobs of the future. How can I make sure that I have a job, that I have a kind of place in the world, in the future, that the machine cannot take? Essentially, every profession, there are several discussions about that, they have a kind of probability that they can be replaced. There is even a website in which you can place your profession, then the website making a calculation for you of the probability of your job being replaced by machine. So when you take professions that are more creative work, like human, they have a very low chance of being replaced. In the case of medical doctor, which has to do with my own work, I work with bioinformatics. So My PhD was about mathematical model for medicine. So most of my work is about how to create models to somehow replace or assist the medical doctor. So in my specific case, I think that medical doctor has, as I said before, I think that when you think about medical doctor as a diagnose, like Dr. House, Dr. House, sadly, even though my Dr. House is awesome, Dr. House has a very high probability of being replaced, as I see it. I see him as a very big chance of being replaced, because for me he's the closest one of being replaced. So if you're a medical doctor, it's like Dr. House. First of all, Dr. House is a fiction. I mean, no, I don't believe that a doctor can be that brilliant as he is. Like that's a place of machine. A machine can be like that, because a machine can integrate information, machine can see pattern. So so Dr. House is the closest one that you have for a replacement for in the world. So artificial intelligence most likely is going to replace Dr. House. Dr. House in the real world, I saw a series about what's behind Dr. House. The person that create Dr. House, what she does, she puts the case on the internet. So everyone all over the world trying to solve the most difficult case. So behind the Dr. House is the world. It's more or less what happened to Kasparov. Kasparov trying to play against the world. Strangely, he won. But imagine the situation that you have the whole world trying to help to solve the problem. That's what behind Dr. House. Dr. House in the real world, the person that creates Dr. House, what she does is to ask the world what's the solution. But machine can do that. Machine can do that in real time. Like in real time, they can see a lot of database, they can integrate, they can connect, they can see the case, they can see several opinions. Machine can do that in a very fast way. So that's why I think Dr. House is the next replacement, most likely. But on the other hand, as I said before, when you have a kind of you have a kind of motor action, such as surgery, such as someone that works directly, or psychologists, maybe psychologists not be replaced, not very easily. Psychiatrists, maybe, I don't know. But the surgery can be I would say that in the doctor situation, the surgery is the position that can be maybe most protected. I mean, you think in terms of which part of the medicine is safe to stay in the job of the future, maybe surgery. I don't know, because we still have a lot to go until we can finally get the details of a surgery. So that the surgery, as far as I know, they need to have a very good hand. They need to have a kind of a hand that can see the details, can make the kind of very detailed work that maybe machine will take a long time to go. So I think so. Not for us to summarize, to close the live. So there were essentially two changes in Robocop that has to do with technology, that has to do with artificial intelligence. The first change was that China now is the most important player in Robocop. It's no longer Japan. And it's true, China is investing heavily on artificial intelligence. So if there is maybe a country that most likely is going to be the future on artificial intelligence, this place is China. Sadly, maybe for competitors, but China is competing head-to-head with the United States. The second point that changed a lot was the place of emotion. I mean, how emotion can be placed in artificial intelligence. As I said before, I'm reading the book of Mark Minsky called The Emotional Machine. So the place is emotion helpful? Is emotion something that helps us to take better decision, or emotion just a kind of a random effect that machines should be eliminated? Would emotion be a bug? Or would emotion be something that the machine cannot replicate? Because when you talk about replicate, should ask yourself if it's good to replicate, such as the case of Google Image. Google Image is replicating prejudice, because when you go to Portuguese and you say black hair, they say that black hair is associated to black people. But that's because Google is evil, it's because human has kind of prejudice in Brazil. So machine was able to internalize this kind of prejudice. So I don't think that everything is human should be replicated. So one of them is prejudice. So the next question is why you should replicate emotion on machine. On the other hand, I should keep in mind that we don't know everything. Machine is not different. So maybe emotion could be the way, because Daniel Kahneman, he won the Nobel Prize. He talks about objective ignorance, which means that no matter how much you know about the future, you never know everything. Even the future can change as you take a decision. The future can change. So if you have a machine that can take decisions just when he's sure, like in Star Trek data, he says like I'm sure that is the right decision. But scientifically it seems to be impossible. When talk about thermodynamic, we have the Carnot cycle, the laws of the first, second, third law of thermodynamics. Maybe in artificial intelligence you can say that you have the objective ignorance. That is a kind of limit. It's a kind of limit how smart or how much you can know about the future. So if you cannot know about the future, artificial intelligence is not different. I mean, you cannot say that in physics you have the speed of light, but in artificial intelligence we may have the objective ignorance for Daniel Kahneman, which may be a kind of can be a limit. It can be how far you go. So if you know that you cannot know your thinking, how can you make the machine resilient to doubt? I mean, emotion, it may be a kind of for example, the emotion that when you take like a decision, if you assume that emotion is a kind of very old, is taken to learn the like stuff that you learn for billions of years, how can you make sure that how can you make sure that how can you make sure that we have this kind of and how can you make sure that we that the emotions that you have are helpful or are not helpful? I mean, in the case of Robocop, the solution was to remove the emotion. He was faster, but when you think about Robocop, or a kind of agent, like someone that's going to act on the world, you already have that. The bots that go around, that's a kind of agent. The bot that decides if your post is fake, if your post is like talks, that's a robot. So they are changing your world. They are changing how they're changing if you can speak online. They are changing. They decide if you should or not. In my case, I have a video that was blocked just because I mentioned COVID in the video. I was talking about science, so I should not be blocked. In the other video, I was blocked because I make a wrong cite. According to them, I make a wrong citation of Albert Einstein. So the question is, how can you make sure that this machine is going to take the decision the proper way? They are already affect the world. They are affect the decision. For example, when you book a flight, and so on. All of this is already a kind of decision that are taken. That has real effect on our lives. So the question is emotion helpful? I mean, we don't know. I don't think that you don't know the answer. I mean, you may fall trap on the common sense that emotion is bad or emotion is good. On the first version of Robocop, emotion was good for sure. So Robocop was superior because he had emotion, human emotion. But on the newest movie, Robocop 2014, emotion is bad. As a matter of fact, they didn't say for sure that emotion is bad. They left as a kind of open question, but you don't know. In science, they found that in some situations, emotion can be good for taking decisions. So they don't know if, for example, psychopath. As a matter of fact, it seems psychopaths, they are unable to feel emotions and so on, but they are not very good at decision necessarily, better than human. So the fact that you are cold capitalist, that you make the math all the time, it seems that it's not necessarily good for you. I mean, anyway, we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure if for you to be cold, just make calculation is like On the other hand, they don't know if the emotion is necessarily good, but maybe I have a guess. Maybe I think my guess is that maybe emotion should be placed in the right amount, like as a random. Part of the system is rational, part of the system is random. Because why? Because you have the objective ignorance. Doesn't matter how much you know about the world. You never can know everything. So maybe should put a kind of simulation of emotion in the machine. We already have that on genetic algorithm evolutionary strategy. You make it a kind of random. You place a random values so the machine can will not fall trap of what we call local minima in mathematics. So you have a kind of emotion when you make optimization. When you take a very rational algorithm, which is called the local optimization, for instance, we fall trap from local solutions. When you make a kind of random, which is a kind of solution, you try to solve, you are able to solve very complex problem. So I don't have the final answer to be sure. I think no one has the answer, but I guess that the emotion may have its place in the world, and also on machines. Hey guys, so I'm very glad of the live. We are going to close here. I invite you to go on in the future. We have more discussion about that topic. So I kind of invite you to join us on this kind of sequence of live. Those lives, they have the goal to maybe to open the discussion of a book, ebook that I'm writing. It's called AI by Sci-Fi. More information, description of the video. As always, I'm always glad to talk to you guys. That's why it will be in English, because I hope to reach new audience, to reach a different kind of people that usually I talk to. So feel free to let me know your thoughts. Feel free to participate from the future lives. As always, every live will be about a move. Then this move you talk about artificial intelligence. So if there is a move that you like to suggest, it has to be about artificial intelligence. So let me know. This move that I'm choosing the move that I like, that I saw, that I have some kind of very close relationship. So I feel comfortable to talk about them. So hope to see you in the next live. Hope to see you in the comments. You have my email on the bottom, the below part, have my email. You can send me an email. You can talk to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Choose the one that you like the most and just let me know your thoughts. So see you.